Celeste Granice Murphy, my grandaunt, was the editor and publisher of the Sonoma Index Tribune from 1915 until 1946. Part of what Celie did was, along with her mother, this is even before she was editor, they helped form the Sonoma Women's Club. Their first project as a women's club was to improve Sonoma Plaza. The plaza was just a open cow pasture. You gotta remember, the streets in those earliest days were dirt and the sidewalks were wood, if they had any at all. And one of the ways they got started in that was they had what they called a Sonoma Day, and they invited all their friends and neighbors around town, and they cleaned up the plaza, and they started planting trees. Celie, in the meantime, of course, she was doing this plaza stuff while she was still a schoolgirl, but she went off to the University of California, graduating in 1901. And in those days, very few women went to university anywhere. And then her father made her the editor of the San Rafael Independent, which was a newspaper in San Rafael at the time, because he also owned that paper. Then later on, she came up to Sonoma and, of course, took over the paper. Probably her biggest accomplishment was to get the state of California to buy the Mission and improve it, because it was a dilapidated structure. She wanted them to buy the Blue Wing Inn, and she wanted them to buy the barracks, the old adobe barracks that Vallejo had kept his troops in. They didn't have enough money for that. By the time she got to the 30s and the paper was sort of successful, she and her husband, Walter, purchased both the Blue Wing Inn and the barracks. They wanted to upgrade to bring both of them back up to something like they were originally, to make them look like a classic adobe building, but with modern preservation techniques of that day. It turned out they couldn't afford to do both. So they ended up selling the Blue Wing Inn to somebody else, but they did take on and remodel entirely the old adobe barracks. But she also left her barracks in her will. That's how the state got the barracks. That's why it is today part of a state parks thing. And upstairs in the second story of the barracks, they built their own home, their apartments. They call them apartments, but it was really a home. It included 3 bedrooms, a living room, and so on, a kitchen, dining room, and so on. In later years, as my aunt got older, she loved trout. She loved eating trout. So I would fish in the local streams in Sonoma Creek, catch some trout, and bring them to her. And it was like I was bringing her gold. She loved it so much. The last memory I had, in fact, was I had brought her some trout earlier in the day, and she invited me to come back for dinner to have the trout with her and Walter. And it was that evening later on that she had a stroke, and that led to her passing away about 6 months later.